Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another video for Eve Echoes. In today's video I want to continue our little deep dives into the April balance update information. Of course we still don't have actual numbers for any of this, so a lot of it is still a little bit of speculation. We're going to be looking at things based on what the developers are saying, the tonality of the text, and the kind of information that we've had through things like Dev Q&A and AMA in the past, just throwing that all together to give an idea and an understanding of what these things are designed to actually do and how it should hopefully, fingers crossed, all work. But again, it is just speculation, so please take everything here with a grain of salt. Now the reason I'm doing this is because since the April balance update notes went live, there have been a lot of people running around screaming that the sky is falling, that doom is here and the game is about to die a slow and painful death, that the developers have no idea what they're doing and oh how dare they do these things. We looked at the extenders, plates, weapon upgrade modules and capacitor batteries, the passive modules which a lot of people have been screaming about. And I talked about how those are actually getting buffed, not nerfed. Ultimately, you can watch the video for that full information there, but in today's one I'm tackling the second one on that list, the one I'm seeing an awful lot of and I'm getting really tired of repeating the same points over and over. We don't have numbers, so again, a lot of this is speculation, but equally most of the counterpoints I'm getting are even higher speculation. So we're going to be looking at the anti-drone pulse bomb module, what it is, what it's going to do, and what it isn't. I think is a key point that we're going to be looking at as well, because I see people calling this a smart bomb, and it's not. Smart bombs are very different, and we will touch on that later in the video as well. Now, if you do enjoy this video, please let me know by hitting like on it, sub to the channel for all things Eve Echoes, and of course, make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Finally, if you do want to go the extra mile to help me keep doing what I do, head across to Patreon. You can pledge to support there as little as £1 a month, and depending on your pledge level, you can get your name in the stars at the end of the video, you can earn exclusive merchandise, and all kinds of other cool stuff there. I do also apologise for my voice today, it's a little bit croaky, but hey, we're going to push through and have a look. So, first of all, anti-drone pulse bomb modules. Why are they wanting to add this to the game anyway? Now they say here, please ban drones from siege battles. This is one of the requests that's been given in regards, it's something that the developers are hearing a lot of in regards to how the game, how people want the game to progress forward and things they want to see in the balance patch. They say drones are a convenient weapon system, however due to network and performance optimization issues, if both sides of a siege battle are carrying thousands of drones, it does make it easier for the network to crash. Now, I want to take an aside here, because I had a recent discussion on Reddit, which actually to me highlighted a lot of the issues on this discourse. People are saying, well, the developers have mentioned that drones count as ships, which is why, if you've got 100 ships aside, and they're all Vexes, for example, rather than that being 100 versus 100, 200 ships in total, each of those Vexes has 5 drones, so each of those Vexes is actually 6 ships. That's a 600 versus 600 fight. That's just a concept there of how that sort of works going forward. Now some people have said, well, maybe netties need to stop the drones behaving like ships then, and like it's some kind of toggle. This is not how it works. Ultimately, they've said that drones count as ships as far as the game is concerned. And people are saying, well, why can't they just not count as ships? It's really not that simple. And if you have a basic understanding of how programming works at all, especially object-oriented game development programming, you'll understand this issue. But for those who don't, which is a fair enough point, not everyone has that kind of experience, ultimately, what you're looking at here is the fact that a ship is an active object. It is something that exists in the game files for everyone to see and thus needs to be displayed to every single person. If you have a ship moving through space, the game needs to constantly be calculating and working out the size of that ship in regards to its signature radius, things like its mass and inertia, because those do change with things like warp drives and afterburners. Even having things like the extenders fitted, etc., those can change that. Plus the direction that ship is traveling, all kinds of different pieces of information about how to display that ship and how to get it to react with other things. Now this goes for anything that has this kind of situation in-game. Drones, of course, when you launch drones, they are now an active object as well. They have a direction of velocity, they have a signature radius, they have all kinds of things that the game needs to constantly be calculating to work out where they are, where they're going, what they're doing, and how to display them for everyone around. It's not that drones are just, oh, well, they just need to make drones not be ships. It's that drones are active objects which the game has to treat like ships. It's that effectively it means that one drone ship with 5 drones is causing the game to have to look at 6 active objects as if there were 6 ships nearby. You could have 6 Condor interceptors, or you could have a Vexor with 5 drones. It's putting a similar amount of strain on the server. Hopefully that makes sense, and we will come back to the programming side of things later, but it's not a simple toggle to just stop drones acting like ships. They are that way. That is how they're going to be. What I would like to see done with drones, more to the point, is that some of the ships, like most cruisers and battle cruisers, do they really need an extra drone? Like, I get the point that, you know, yes, these ships have them in EVE Online, and it's kind of like having a little auxiliary ship that just helps deal with smaller, you know, small fry targets and things, but if they're negatively impacting the game this much, then surely we could get rid of those. My Probe Explorer, for example, does not need a drone. I am never using that drone. The logistics ships don't need drones. They're more hassle than they're worth. We could get rid of some of these to make it much easier for the game's workload. But anyway, we're kind of coming off on a tangent there. Just wanted to explain the whole concept of how drones work as far as game code is considered. And it says here, in addition, due to the low cost of medium and small drones and the issue of being targeted and attacked by large ships, it's a very tactful way to use a large number of small and medium drones to conduct hit-and-run operations against the enemy, which is tricky. As a result, the Concorde led the development and authorized the launch of large anti-drone pulse bomb modules. Now, it's worth mentioning as an aside there that yes, this is kind of true. Drone tactics are popular because the Nightmare is popular. When you've got a ship that can sit there with an absolutely massive shield field that has incredibly high resists, and it can run 3 extenders that are getting that big percentile bonus, adding, what, 24,000 hit points per activation, and you've got 3 of those on endless cycle. Ultimately, any damage that's not 24,000 or higher in 20 seconds means that that Nightmare has taken no damage whatsoever. So people were using drones because the drones will get inside that shield field and actually damage the ships inside. And I get that. That makes sense. But we are getting nerfs to both the shield field and to extenders, which are part of what makes that meta so absolutely toxic. So we should have a situation where actually that Nightmare is going to need extraordinary amounts of logistical support in order to actually maintain that shield field, and if it flickers for a moment, the nerfs to the shield field means it's going to drop and stay down for a long time. So the need for drones in PvP is no longer as high as it was before. The drones were a hard counter to one of the most prevalent tactics due to how things go, and I do apologize, I can hear my cat starting to fight in the background here. Yeah. Don't worry if you can hear that. They're not killing each other, they're just playing. Anyway, continuing onwards. Thanks, guys, you're dropping me off topic here. Ultimately, there is less need for a drone meta, and the drone meta, drone doctrines, are proving to be damaging to PvP. We can sit there and have all these complaints and discussions that we like about things like, oh, well, you know, there's all these black screen issues and NetEase aren't doing anything about it. The simple fact is that there's not much they can do. Oh, we didn't used to have all of these black screens. No, because not everyone was flying drone ships back then. With the prevalence of the Nightmare, we've had a massive increase in drone doctrines, people flying ships that have more drones on them now. Heck, even if you just look at the fact that people have swapped from cruisers to battleships, they've gone from 1 drone to 2 drones. That means they've gone from 2 ships to 3 ships as far as the game is concerned, which is an additional 50% workload on the server. Anyway, the simple point is we need to reduce the amount of drones, and I do wish they had gone for other routes as well as this. I will be right there with you on here. There are other ways they could have done this, and ultimately I still think they should. I don't see why all of these ships need to have drones with them. I think it is beneficial to get rid of some of those, but let's talk about the anti-drone pulse bomb module. This is a large-scale module, so it's a large, high slot, specifically designed for the shield system of drones and fighters, and we'll come back to that in a second, which requires higher energy. It's fitted with the high slot, while large pulse bombs are usually fitted on battleships. When enabled, it can damage all drones and fighters within a certain range of the ship. Now, some people have led to say here that basically It says here, designed for the shield system of drones and fighters. So does that mean it only hits their shields, and when the shields are gone, you know, the armor and the structure still remains? No, that's just lore speak. It says here it can damage all drones and fighters within a certain range of the ship. If it was just the shields, it would be ultimately useless, because you would still then have to target and shoot at the drones anyway. And let's be fair, it's not like drones, you know, require all that much to get rid of their shields in the first place. Hitting them, locking onto them all, that's the problem. So when enabled, it can damage all drones and fighters within a certain range. I imagine this is going to be somewhere in the 7.5 to 10 kilometer region. I will explain why I believe that later on when we talk about smart bombs. But the basic premise here is that you can activate one of these high slots and it will damage all drones and fighters within a radius of the ship itself, like a pulse effect and like an explosion around it that will just damage drones and fighters. I've heard people saying, oh, it's going to hit frigates. Show me where in here it mentions anything about frigates whatsoever. These are not smart bombs, they are anti-drone pulse bomb modules. They've not been called smart bombs for a specific reason. Anyway, looking at things, Chimera, bless her, she's in a hyper mode, so she's running around and jumping on everything. Anyway, so for small-scale PvE or PvP, there is no need to specifically carry anti-drone pulse bombs. For large-scale battles, several professional anti-drone ships will become the new stars on the battlefield. If you still want to use drone tactics, how you can protect yourself and destroy enemy anti-drone ships will become an important tactic. Now, this is where I think the sky's falling is really coming apart when you actually look into this. People are saying that in large-scale battles, there's going to be no use for a drone ship. I fly a Dominix for PvP. I'm going to need to reskill all of my points out of this. I don't want to fly a carrier anymore. Really, you honestly think that netties are going to have spent all this time and energy developing carriers, launching them into the game, and then just a month or two later, ultimately more than a month, 6 months later, coming out with something that makes them utterly useless? No, it's an option to counter them. I get the argument that, hang on a second, they want to use these modules to make drones and fighters less prevalent on the battlefield, therefore these anti-drone pulse bombs need to be effective. Yes, they need to be an effective deterrent. They don't need to be an I win button. There's a big difference there. If I can send a whole fleet of drones at one of these ships and it pulse bombs, then yes, it's probably going to do damage to all of those drones, but it's probably not going to wipe all of them out in one go. And even if you have a lot of battleships stacked on top of each other, at that sort of 7.5 kilometer radius, how many battleships are you actually getting in one point? And ultimately, you can sit there and say, oh, right, well, you know, we're going to just have every single battleship in the enemy fleet swaps one of its high slots for one of these. So when we've got 10 battleships all stacked on top of each other, then I can't do anything to those ships because my drones will just be useless. Well, okay, I kind of get your point. That is 10 of these bombs stacked together. So maybe you should send your drones after something else, like the smaller targets that aren't so close to the battleships. Maybe you should be using your drones to take out things like interceptors and interdictors that are holding your fleet in place. Maybe you should be letting your strike artillery and things like that deal with the ships that are having these bombs. Because you know what? If you've got 10 ships with these bombs and you blow up 3 of them, that's now only 7 ships with these bombs. Ultimately though, it does say here, several professional anti-drone ships will become the new stars on the battlefield. So I do actually hope that we are going to be getting an anti-drone bonused battleship for each faction. And my personal preference would be the Abaddon, the Rock, the Hyperion, and the Maelstrom, because then that would mean we've got 2 Typhoons, 2 Tempest, and we've got 2 Maelstroms, so on and so forth across the different factions. Would have 2 of each of the battleship hulls. Also, those are the tanky, in inverted commas, battleships. They're the ones with the sort of, resistance and active tank bonuses, which kind of makes sense for those to be the bombers, because they're the ones that are going to be in the thick of it, right? So I do get the feeling that we are going to see these, and therefore there will be ships with these direct bonuses on. I'm hoping that that's the case, because if that is the case, then you can make it so that one bomb on a ship actually does very little at all. It really doesn't do much damage. Ultimately, you then have it so that it scales up. Look at electronic warfare. When it comes to things like tracking disruptions, guidance disruptions, target painters, sensor dampeners, if you just put those onto any old ship, they don't actually do all that much. But if you put them onto a specific ship, they suddenly do a lot more. If you were to take a Maulus or a Celestis and put the sensor dampeners onto it, they do a lot more than they would do if you were to put them onto, say, a Burst or a Stabber or something like that. Same with the target painters on a Bellicose being so much stronger than on any other ship, tracking disruptors on the Arbitrator and the Crucifier, that kind of thing there. So I would like to see this kind of electronic warfare being bonused to a specific ship. So it's not very good if you just have one on your ship, but if you stack them on your ship, like, okay, you can sit there and say, my Apocalypse Striker, it's got, what, 7, 8 high slots? I can't actually remember off the top of my head. If I just swap one of those for a drone bomb, that drone bomb's going to be pointless and worthless. I may as well have fitted a mining laser. But if I wanted to fit 4 of these, they're going to do a somewhat decent amount of damage, but they're going to absolutely neuter my ability to deal damage in combat. So then we can also say, okay, well fine, you fit 8 of these onto there, and suddenly you've got an anti-drone ship, but it has no other ability on the, in regards to the fleet. Or you just wait until the Hyperion Pulse Bomb battleship is released. You fit, it's got 4 high slots which you put these drone pulse bombs into, and they are just absolutely devastating. At which point you've got a clearly demarked ship that is going to be targeted. If your ships are using drones, you're going to want to get rid of the anti-drone pulse bombs first. Now, the simple point of this is that, yes, ultimately, they are going to reduce how effective drones are in PvP. That's the entire point. That is a good thing for everyone. If you have invested everything you have into drones, and all you do is PvP, you're going to have a somewhat bad time of this. Ultimately, though, I don't think anyone is completely invested into only drones for PvP, and we're also getting Lazarus units. So if, for example, you're flying a Dominix and the only thing you do is PvP in a Dominix, then you're going to get some Lazarus units that are going to help you to respec out of large drones into something like large lasers or large railguns, large missiles or large cannons. You have options there. That said, I don't think drones are going to disappear completely. I think a lot of people are going to stop using drones as such a demanded thing. Like, I think drone doctrine will drop off, but I still think that there will be pilots who use drones in large-scale PvP as well. But heck, even if they don't, you can still use this in small-scale PvP, small and medium scale. It's not all about the big, large battles. And ultimately, if you want to take part in big, large battles, there are other roles you can do whilst you skill into other things. If I sound like I'm being really talked down my nose to you, I don't mean to. The simple point though is I can't sit there and say to people, I'm really sorry that, your very niche use of a ship, the fact that you play purely a PvP Dominix, you don't do anything else in the game, therefore those skills are now apparently completely 100% useless to you, maybe we should turn around on this change. I don't think that. I think that unfortunately the manner of the change itself is important enough that yes, in this case, some people do need to respec. If you are one of those incredibly niche people who are only drone spec'd for PvP, then yeah, you probably want to change those skills, but I don't get why anyone would be exclusively PvP and exclusively drone ships. That's such a niche situation. It's not to say that there aren't people out there, but the change needs to happen. It's happening anyway, whether I like it or not. There's not much I can do about it. Finally, it says at the bottom here, we're in the process of further improving the performance of large battles in several ways and will gradually update it in the future. At present, with the use of anti-drone bombs, a huge number of drones could be tackled to a certain extent, and the fluency of the battle will be improved. Basically, you're going to actually have to make tactical decisions now. If you're using drones, you need to know who and what you can safely go up against. If you launch a whole wave of drones against a ship that is rammed to the gills with anti-drone pulse bomb modules, expect to lose your drones. That kind of makes sense, right? If I'm piloting something like a Naglfar and someone comes along with a load of tracking disruptors, I need to get rid of those ships as well. The difference here is that I can't do anything with the tracking disruptors against me because I can't hit those ships. I need my friends to do it for me. Here with the anti-drone, I've still got my high slots that I can apply some damage to those ships with my friends whilst it goes on. So, that's what they are. Let's talk about what they aren't, and I'm going to jump into EVE Online for this. Ultimately, a lot of people have been saying, well, so basically these are smart bombs, right? They're just smart bombs. And I've even had people saying, well, why aren't they smart bombs? They should be smart bombs. And I cannot disagree more. Smart bombs, to me, have always, and for the longest time, been just this really toxic meta in EVE Online. Like, people think that I sit there and talk about EVE Online a lot. I don't. I talk about it for inspiration, not to try and make EVE Echoes EVE Online mobile. I play EVE Online. I play EVE Online separately here in the background anyway. I'm not trying to make EVE Echoes EVE Online mobile. I'm trying to look at EVE Online for inspiration of how we can fix some of the issues that Echoes has. And Smart Bombs absolutely are not one of those things. Smart Bombs in EVE Online are usually large high-slot modules, like you can see here. This is a large graviton smart bomb. It radiates an omnidirectional pulse from the ship that causes kinetic damage to surrounding vessels. And if I go to attributes, you can see this one is kinetic because it's a graviton smart bomb. We can look at EMP smart bombs, which do electromagnetic. We have plasma smart bombs, which do thermal. And we have proton smart bombs, which do explosive damage. That's the basic premise here. But what Smart Bombs also do in EVE Online that they are not going to be doing in EVE Echoes, because they're not Smart Bombs, they're anti-drone pulse bombs. The Smart Bomb damages everything in range. If we have a look at here, the large proton smart bomb, you can see that it has an area of effect radius of 5,000 meters. In fact, if we go up to the Meta Level 2 version, the Tech 2 version, these are like 6,000 meters. So you're looking at 5 to 6 kilometers. Echoes does have longer range for most things. It gives a bit more sort of variance and a bit more sort of ease of use. If you look at stasis webifiers, for example. So I do anticipate that this would be a 7.5 up to 10 kilometer radius compared to the 6.5 kilometers that we see in EVE Online. What EVE Online smart bombs do is they damage everything in that radius. If you've got friendly frigates sitting nearby and you launch drop a smart bomb, you are going to hurt those friendly frigates as well. And destroyers and cruisers and battleships. Obviously, though, 300 HP worth of kinetic damage isn't all that much to a battleship. That can be an awful lot to a frigate. That can nearly kill a frigate, and that's just one of these. They also, hilariously, the part that everyone forgets about when talking about smart bombs is they also knock missiles out of the sky. If you have someone firing missiles at you and you time a smart bomb explosion right, you can stop those missiles hitting you. Yes, really. And that to me is just insane, that people are sitting there saying, well, why don't we get actual smart bombs? The reason ultimately is because what NetEase wants is to reduce drones on the battlefield. It's going to affect fighters as well, which is nice and easy. You just basically have a little check on the bomb that says, you know, is the thing I've hit a drone or a fighter? If yes, give it damage. If no, ignore it. Simple as that. Nice and easy to code. What they have in EVE Online is a simple damage everything, which includes incoming missiles. This means that in EVE Echoes, the anti-drone pulse bombs are going to be fairly niche. They're not going to be something that you just fit for the sake of it. You're going to actually have to make a decision, do I want to fit these? Is this something that I need to fit? And for things like gate camps, you're probably not going to fit an anti-drone smart bomb because there's really not that much use for it, right? In EVE Online, yeah, smart bombs work really well in gate camps because you stack a load of battleships on that gate and every time something comes through, they all hit the button at the same time and it goes. There's no hit chance with smart bombs. If you are in the effect, you take damage. It's as simple as that. So now imagine that every single frigate, every single destroyer, every single cruiser even, that lands on the gate that you're camping, you don't even have a bubble up, you just see it land, and all 5 of your battleships just press the button at the same time, and everything in that area dies. And you can position your ships around so that they don't do all that much damage to each other. They're only overlapping 1 or 2 bombs that they can rep, but the ship that has landed in all 5 ships' effective sphere is getting hit with all of those bombs from all of those ships, and that is a stacking amount of incredible alpha damage. That is why I don't want this in EVE Echoes. There's also a thing called pipe bombing in EVE Online as well, which is hilarious to watch, and I do recommend you type in EVE Online pipe bombing into YouTube after this video. But the basic concept of that is you get you and all of your mates to warp to a point, activate all of your smart bombs, and then warp straight off again. You are going to take a bit of damage from your friend's smart bombs, they're going to take a bit of damage from your smart bomb, but whatever you warp to 0 at is taking full damage from all of those smart bombs. How do you counter that? You really don't. It's a complete hit and run strategy that does nothing, and as hilarious as it is to watch, I just can't imagine that being a good thing in EVE Echoes. I think that would be absolutely toxic. I think sitting on a gate and knowing that you could just instantly blap anything that is a destroyer or smaller, and probably several cruisers as well, that happens to come by without even needing to use an interdictor anymore. It would make gate camps absolutely toxic, and that's not what I'm here for, you know? I'm here to make this game better for everyone. So whilst I understand that certain drone pilots are going to be a little bit concerned about how all of this works, here with these anti-drone pulse bombs, I get that some people are concerned that their playstyle is going to be negatively affected by this, but that kind of needs to happen for the overall benefit of the game. And hopefully the Lazarus units that we get will allow pilots who are so nichely into just PvP drone ships to respec out of the drone ships. I don't know, or, you know, there's all kinds of stuff we can do, and I don't think this is going to be a be-all and end-all as well. I do still think that we need to be removing some of the drones from all of the different ships we have. Again, I don't see why my Hurricane Logistics has drones. I don't get why any of the logistics ships have drones. I don't get why my Probe Explorer has a drone on it. I do think we need to just look at ships and go, actually, does this need to have a drone on it? And if not, get rid of it. I think certain battleships need to kind of just... my Typhoon 2 can launch 2 large drones. Why? Why does it need to? Why has that got 2 when everything else only has 1? I get that there's the whole, oh, it's thematic, but we're not talking about thematic here. We're talking about game design. We're talking about balance, and something that is damaging the game. You need to look at it and say, well, is the thematics worth damaging the game over? And usually my concept here is no. My simple answer to that is no. Anyway, folks, those are my thoughts and opinions here on the anti-drone pulse bomb module and smart bombs in EVE Online, and why I actually like the anti-drone pulse bomb module, why I think it's a good thing. I do accept that it is going to negatively affect certain players, but there should be safety nets in place to help handle that. Again, if you are just doing PvP drones, then yes, you're going to have a bad time, but I don't believe there are that many people who do just PvP drones, and that is all that they have in their skills, that when this happens, they're effectively removed from the game. I don't believe that's a thing. I do believe the Lazarus units are going to help you to respec out if that is a case for you. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Would love to know what you guys think about all of this as well. Do you think this goes far enough? Do you think it goes too far? Let me know your opinions. Otherwise, folks, thank you for listening to me ramble on right the way to the end of this video. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.